There's a very powerful Maisa about a very powerful tzaddik. And this tzaddik, Rav Simcha Bunim, whose entire or was to teach the secret of simcha, to teach the secret of simcha as it emerges specifically from within the struggle for authenticity in this world. Meaning to say, the Torah of Rav Simcha Bunim, the Torah of the Yid HaKadosh, and ultimately the Torah of the Kotzker, and all of the Talmidim of the Kotzker, especially Ishbitz and Radzin, is ultimately a Torah of a simcha that comes not from Shamayim necessarily, but a simcha that comes from the person themselves. It's the construction of simcha. It's not an entering into joy. It is not a finding joy, but it's a construction of joy. It is an offering as to how the individual can grapple with this world and its problems, which these tzaddikim demanded that we pay attention to first and foremost, because without acknowledging the questions, we're not going to be able to find a viable answer. And there is a path that ignores the questions and pretends the questions don't exist, meaning all of the question marks that place the concept of happiness, under investigation, instead of ignoring them and allowing those problems to reassert themselves, as we've understood time and time again, that the repressed will return in one way or another. It might not look like what we put down there, but it will ultimately reveal itself again, tearing the joy that we have delicately created above the ignorance of the problems asunder and throwing us back into trauma. Comes along Rav Simcha Bunim in the light of the Yid HaKadosh, who understood the deep secret of the need to cultivate the functioning of the self from within the self, not to base our functionality on the external circumstances of our lives, which will perhaps work sometimes, perhaps not work sometimes, which puts it in a place of a kaf hakela, of a running and returning without base, and instead to find the basis of joy, the unconditionality of joy within the self. Now, there's a ma'aseh with Rav Simcha Bunim. Rav Simcha Bunim was a pharmacist prior to, and even during the process of him being a tzaddik, before he was Makabel Admiris, before he was Makabel, the role of being a Rebbe, he was a pharmacist, which is no different than what a tzaddik is doing on a certain level. It's trying to heal some aspect of an individual's broken experience. If a pharmacist in a healthy way is trying to alleviate certain physiological ailments by the utilization of different combinations and medicines that are there to alleviate pain, then a tzaddik is doing the very same thing, except with Torah, with tefillah, with amunah, with bitachon, with shemos, with yichudim. And so this light of Rav Simcha Bunim expresses itself very often in very poignant encounters with where we have to pause and really ask ourselves, what exactly am I trying to understand here? Now, there's a maisa from Rav Simcha Bunim, that Rav Simcha Bunim was walking along the boardwalk one day. He was walking along the boardwalk. There was another encounter where Rav Simcha Bunim seems to have been walking on a boardwalk as well, and there were a group of people, and ultimately they were wearing tachrichim because they were already dead. But put that story aside. The story of Rav Simcha Bunim is as follows. He's walking down the boardwalk, and he sees there's a commotion because there's somebody drowning. There's somebody drowning who's falling under the swell and the sway of the waters, and they're incapable to bring themselves out of it and to find the breath so necessary to life. And in this moment of chaos, of death, of suffocation, of inundation with water, so Rav Simcha Bunim calmly looks out over the balcony of the boardwalk, and he screams out to the person who's in the midst of drowning. He says, "Please send the Leviathan my regards. Please send my best regards to the Leviathan." And in hearing the tzaddik say this, the individual began to laugh a little bit. The individual began to find some breath within himself to laugh, to say ha, and that ha became an inhale, and that inhale became something that gave him the ability to get up further than he was a moment before. And slowly but surely, it was the laughter itself that was resulting from the joke about sending regards to Leviathan that took this person from a place of Misa to Chaim. So what I want to talk about a little bit is the Indian of the Leviathan, the Leviathan, the great monster of the sea, the great serpent of the sea, this theoretical and very real, as the Leshem Shua Bachaloma makes abundantly clear to us, very real creature, this expression, this spiritual kind of expression of a physical notion in whatever way it will be revealed to us. There is something referred to as the Leviathan. Now, the Leviathan, this sea creature, is representative of a way of being, aside from all of the actual realities of what the suda of the Leviathan is going to be, and the masculine Leviathan and the feminine Leviathan, Be'ezras Hashem, we can give a number of talks on the unfolding suga of the Leviathan, and perhaps Be'ezras Hashem we will. The whole notion of Leviathan is Levia, it's Melashon Levi, which means connecting things, very much like the cord-like nature of the string of a snake, or something that can be used to tie and to connect. So the suga of the Leviathan, very much like its own name, connects one thing to another, and it begins at Maisa Bereshis and it ends with Bias HaMashiach. It's one of these sugyas, and you see it very much in the writings of the Vilna Gaon, that goes min harosh ad hasoif, exactly as the Leviathan is meant to be. We see it in the Psukim in Eov, when Eov is encountering the harrowing encounter with a world that appears to be devoid of God, or perhaps even worse, a God that is devoid of justice, God forbid, of leis din v'leis dayan. We see an encounter of the Leviathan. We see HaKadosh Baruch Hu playing with the Leviathan at the moments of din, as the Gemara in Avodah Zarah tells us, that it's B'shlish ha'acharon, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is masachik with the Leviathan, and specifically the time of Mincha, where the world is most difficult. The Leviathan operates in this very murky territory, this watery space of terror and redemption. The Leviathan can be seen as something associated with Yonah ben Amittai, buried at the bottom of the sea. It's associated with Paro, the Tanin Hagadol. It's associated with the Nachash Breach and the Nachash Aklason, the curved snake, which represents the feminine principle of receptivity, and the elongated snake, which represents the capacity of expression. The Leviathan is the secret of all secrets. That Elu Tolas Yitzchak, Elu Tolas Aschoik, says the Sefer Hanelam, the Medrash Hanelam on Parshas Todos, that it's going to be the suda of the Leviathan, and that's the suda of the Hizgalus, of the Soidus of Torah, that are going to be revealed in a way that can be truly connected, because the Leviathan represents Das, the capacity to connect. But it's also the type of Das, it's also the type of experience of connectivity, a desire, a hope towards connectivity that comes out from the very aspect of hopelessness towards productivity and connectivity. Leviathan is not simply an affirmation of value or significance. The Leviathan is something that appears to be destitute, appears to be broken, appears to be caught up in all sorts of difficult encounters, but in truth is going to be revealed to be the secret that has been present in our lives all along, the secret of the Leviathan, where we're leading up to the suda of the Leviathan, which is a gilui of ore coming to such fruition that we can mamish make a bracha on it, kavyachol. And so what I want to talk about now is a few inyanim with regards to the Leviathan. Number one is that we can look at the entire Yarach HaEsanim. We can look at this Zman that we're in now, from Elul to Rosh Hashanah, to Asari Samei Tshuva, to Yom Kippur, to the 4 days between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, to the first days of Sukkot, to Hashanah Rabbah, to Shmini Atzeres, to Simchas Torah. All of these can be seen as being connected to the Sugya of the Leviathan, because we're going to see Rosh Hashanah is connected to the Leviathan, Yom Kippur with Yonah is connected to the Leviathan, Sukkot is the Oro Shel Leviathan, the Simchas Beis HaShaveva is the Shchita of Leviathan. So all of this Zman of Tishrei and the desire to connect out of a feeling of distance is the Sugya of the Leviathan. Rav Simcha Bun Mapshischa has a famous letter, a very famous letter that has been darshaned over and over and over again. Many tzaddikim from different zramim very much appreciated this letter as the gateway into a proper understanding of the Yomim Noraim. And it reads as follows. It says, Merochai kashem nirali dar Rosh Hashanah. Merochai kashem nirali dar Rosh Hashanah. That the notion of HaKadosh Baruch Hu appearing to me from afar is expressed in Rosh Hashanah. And then he has a famous statement where he says, Ki habina hu raz v'hamaisa hu or, that Raz and Or, secret and light, share the same numerical value, and it's a profound revolutionary teaching with regards to the value of action over and above intellectual contemplation, something that rests at the core of Chabad. But suffice it to say, what we find is Rosh Hashanah is a zman of Merochok Hashem Nirali. Specifically from afar, am I able to be Makabel Ol Malchus Shamayim? Because like we said before, one way of being Makabel Ol Malchus Shamayim is saying, yes, this is something that I agree with 100%, and this is where I want to park my car, and Ol Malchus Shamayim is exactly what I need in my life. Every part of me agrees with it. Very much like Kabbalah Shabbos, I receive Shabbos, I accept Shabbos fully. And then there's another way where we have to look at Kabbalah Malchus Shemayim as not where I 100% agree with anything. I don't agree with anything. I don't know anything. I have no koach, I have no thought, I have no heart, I have nothing. But I'm makabel it. I accept the fact that this is my lot in life. I'm a yid and I have to be makabel Malchus Shemayim. And in that sense, Kabbalah Shabbos, as I may not feel it Shabbos, my mind is still on the week, but at least now I'm makabel at Shabbos. You're telling me at Shabbos, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're telling me at Shabbos, I'm makabel. I'm makabel it l'mala mitam v'das. Because the inyan of Malchus, the inyan of accepting the kingship of the Ribbono Shel Olam, as we've spoken about so often, is the inyan of learning to see the Ribbono Shel Olam in his absence. It's learning to believe in the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is present by way of his kingship, in spite of the fact that we cannot point to it, see it, touch it, smell it, or experience it in any clear and definable, provable way. Malchus is an inyan of impoverishment of spirit. It's an impoverishment not because of some failed action, but it's an impoverishment because its very essence is emptiness. That it's the aspect of ani. It is the place where we can fully empty ourselves out and make ourselves translucent, because that's when we become the vessels for HaKadosh Baruch Hu's light in this world. But the only way that happens is through the bittul of accepting the fact that I don't see you, Ribbono Shel Olam, I don't feel you, I don't experience you, and memela bezois yavo aron, from that place of Emunah, an Emunah that is born out of night, the Malchus that goes down into concealment for the sake of elevating all of concealment back up. The Shekhinah HaKadosh Malchus is Gans Klal. Malchus is everything. And because it's everything, it goes down to the lowest place in order to elevate even the lowest place. Now, this inyan of Malchus is the inyan of Rosh Hashanah. What's happening on Rosh Hashanah is that the sustenance, the vitality, the capacity to move forward has grown dry. I can't move forward anymore. I can't move forward anymore. There's not enough runway for me to continue so that the plane can take off. There's not enough space for me to move. I'm claustrophobic, I'm stuck, and I'm tied up, and I'm dizzied up. That inyan of coming to the end of the year, of Rosh Hashanah, where a person now feels, Mirachok Hashem nirali, Hashem, you're very far from me. I feel very far from you, Ribbono Shel Olam. It's specifically in that place that a person is makabel ol Malchus Shemayim. It's specifically in that place where a person draws down more vitality. Rosh Hashanah is Rosh Hashinui. It's an ascendant back up to a place prior to shifts, prior to change, to that unchanging place where I can resolve within myself and uncover the newfound capacity to move forward in my life, both personally, internally, interpersonally, and spiritually. And this Kabbalah Malchus Shemayim demands within itself a momentary lapse into a place where I don't feel Kabbalah Malchus Shemayim, where I feel that richuk, where I feel that distance. And it's specifically from that place, Ubakashtem misham daika, min hametzar karasika, mima'amakim karasicha, from that place, from that sunken place in the belly of the sea, when Yonah ben Amittai finds himself buried in the belly of the snake, it's specifically in that place that we cry out and we're makabel Malchus Shemayim. Now, the Ramami Pano points out, Rav Moshe Shapiro, Zchus Yagen Aleinu, the Vilna Gaon, make a tremendous asik out of this, and Rabbi Nachman does as well in Torah Zayin and Chelek Beis of Likutei Moharan, that Leviathan is the aspect of Malchus. Leviathan is the gematria of Malchus, because Leviathan represents this concept of Malchus. It's a hidden thing. It's hidden underneath the sea. It's concealed from my conscious awareness. The notion of godliness, the notion of presence, the notion of connectivity is submerged in the oceanic sense of my unconscious, in spite of the fact that I don't have access to it. I'm aware that it exists, and it's my inability to grasp it or to feel it or to hold it that motivates me to dig down deeper, to come to believe in it more and more until my belief in it becomes the manifestation of that thing itself. My lack of ability to grab hold of the Leviathan, my lack of ability to grab hold of that Nakuda that awakens me to the hiskashrus that I have to the Ribbono Shel Olam in this moment, in spite of all things, and the deep belief that in this moment, Ribbono Shel Olam, me, with my mind, with my heart, with my body, have a bigger capacity to Mkadesh Shem Shemayim and to bring Mashiach Tzidkenu than any other Yid in the history of the Welt. Right here, right now, my head, my heart, that's the hischabrus to the Nakuda of the Leviathan. That's the Giloi of the suda of the Leviathan. And that type of urgency, that hiskashrus, panimi, that schoik that's niskala through the Leviathan is a schoik that comes bedafka miderech richuk, bedafka in a moment of drowning. Rav Simcha Bunim is able to say, you're drowning, you're tasting misa, you're tasting the destitution and the impoverishment of Malchus. Dafka now you can be miskaber with a doubled form of chayas, and you could connect to the Ribbono Shel Olam, and you can send my regards to the Leviathan, and that's where the schoik is going to come from. That's the v'tischak liyom macharon of the suda of the Leviathan, that starts with Maisa of Rosh Hashanah, of being Makabel ol Malchus Shemayim, connecting to the Leviathan within myself, connecting to the Das within myself, connecting to the Yisoid within myself, that foundation which rests assuredly underneath all of the lichluch and all of the filth and all of the destruction and all of the concealment and all of the symptomology and all of the misdeeds and transgressions and shame and deep knowledge of my inequity. All of those things are coverings. They do nothing to the Even Hashasiya, where the Leviathan is Mishotet Bamayim, where the entire world, as the Zohar Kadosh tells us, is Mishotet al the fin, on the kashkeshet of the Leviathan. Chazal tell us the world appears sturdy. Tzaddik Yesod Olam. The world has a tzaddik. The world has yesh ma lismoch, like Rabbi Shimon, Kedai lismoch. Rabbi Shimon was like the Leviathan. As the Baal Tanya points out, there are two types of tzaddikim. There are the tzaddikim in the sea, and there are the tzaddikim in on the land. There's that tzaddikim of the Yam HaChachma, and there are tzaddikim of the Eretz of Bina. And the tzaddikim in the Yam HaChachma, the hester of those tzaddikim, is that they're poyel zayin. They're creating the changes in themselves, in the world, within ourselves, and we are our own tzaddikim as well. That's the secret of the Leviathan, of Malchus, to do something hidden, to do something beyond kesel yom chagenu, when there's a kisoy to the Levana, where it's specifically where I don't know anything. That's where I'm makabel Malchus Shemayim. That's where I uncover the aura of the Leviathan within myself. And so the Leviathan reveals this radical secret of learning to laugh at the distance, because the distance is the incubator from which I am going to come to connect to closeness. Mirochik Hashem nirali, daika, specifically from the Richuk, which is Gematria Shakai, which is the aspect of Yesod, which is the aspect of Malchus, which is the aspect of Leviathan, as we said. Now, two more inyanim that we can apply to our lives on a practical level in terms of this very profound and deep sugya that has deep applications, because if anything is going to be connected to the etzem, it has to be mispashets from the Rosh to the Sof, like Das, like Keser, like Malchus. It's all part and parcel of the same hollow column that exists from the top to the bottom, which is the true place of the expression of the Rabbanu Shalom's infinite light and chayus at every moment, never not taking place to give birth to newfound vitality and chayus. So one thing that's asked is, what is the suda of the Leviathan? What are we going to eat? What is going to be taking place? And so the Leshem Shebei V'Chaloima, a tzaddik of Mashiach, a tzaddik of the Gilui of Mashiach, spends a lot of time telling us exactly what it's going to be. And the ikr to believe that there's going to be mamish a suda, there's going to be a suda of the Leviathan, which is going to be the course of fish. There's going to be the suda of the Ziv Shakai, which is the giant hen, which is described in Agadatos in the stories of Rabba Bar Bar Chana, which is going to be the poultry. And then there's the Shor Habar, which is going to be the basar. All three of those aspects, and there's going to be Yayin, Hamashumar Ba'anavav, and David HaMelech is going to be the one who says, Ani Yavarech Veli Na'el Levarech, and that's where David HaMelech is going to have a Koisi Revaya of Resh Chaf Aleph Lugin, which is the secret of Arich Anpin, the Hiskalis of Keser. So this is a real Suda. So first and foremost, the question is, what's the Suda? What's the Suda going to be? And where is the Suda going to take place? And the Ramami Pana, one of the most haligat tzaddikim, the Ramami Pana says something as follows. He says, where is it that the Suda of the Leviathan is going to take place? Where is it that this revelation, that all distance is in truth the incubator for growth, and all emptiness was in truth a fullness, and all concealment was in truth revelation, and all disconnection was in truth a form of connection, and all running away from Hashem was in truth a coming closer to Hashem, as we're going to see the Leviathan teach us on Yom Kippur with Yonah ben Amitai. And all of those inyanim, all of those things that we're going to learn, that's going to be revealed to us in the Suda. But where is the Suda going to take place? That Suda of Zeh Hashem Kivinu Lo, that this is exactly what I've been yearning for. And Zakta Ramami Pano and the Ropshitzer brings it down, and the Leshem brings it down, and Rabbi Nachman brings it down, that the only place big enough for such a Suda is Gehenim. The only place that's big enough for such a Suda is Gehenim. Why? Because the Gans Inyan of the Leviathan is the secret of being Mahapich Gehenim into Gan Eden, of revealing that down here in the Malchus of it all, in the concealment of it all, in the murky waters of it all, in the inundation of Mayim b'Mayim, and being stuck in the flood, in the mabul of the bilbul of my mind, and the mabul of Ta'anugim that are bilti ruchniim, and the mabul of all of my dimyonos and my ruminations and my frustrations and myself, and etc., etc., etc. All of those things, it's specifically in that place of Gehenim, it's specifically in that concealed place that I'm going to have the Suda of the Leviathan, where there's going to be the battle between the Shor Habar and the Leviathan, the secret of the hidden Tzaddikim and the revealed Tzaddikim, and Yonah ben Amitai and Eliyahu Hanavi are going to be the ones who shech the Shor Habar, and it's going to be the big Schaik HaElyon. And all of that is going to take place in Gehenim. But what is the suda? What is this suda? So the Gra and his base measures say this suda is the revelation of the secrets of Torah, which equals the revelation of laughter. Why? Because the deepest aspect of the secrets of Torah is the transvaluation and the transformation that they allow us to engage in when we come to realize that all of the things that I perceive as distance from the Ribbono Shel Olam, as concealment, are in truth expressions of the Ribbono Shel Olam through which I can find an even deeper connection to the Ribbono Shel Olam, the secret of tshuva. That schok v'tischak liyom acharon, that suda of Elu Todas Yitzchak, b'yom higamalas Yitzchak, on the day of Purim, on the day of the Megillah, on the day of Yom Kippurim, there's a hisgalus of a schok ha'elyon that comes to say what I thought was far. I have no idea what far, what close is. Hashem is everything. What concept is there of far or close? And it's a bilbul of our previous limited mindsets that are going to reveal that be'emes, I always knew that I was always with you, Ribbono Shel Olam, even though I didn't know it. Even though I didn't know it and I didn't believe it, I believed it and I knew it. And that's going to be Magala Zayin on a schok. That's going to be the schok ha'elyon, the gilui of Tishrei Torah. But the Ramami Panel says something different, and the Bnei Yissaschar brings this down in his Kabbalistic encyclopedia, Ragal Yeshera. He says that the suda of Leviathan is as follows. The suda of Leviathan is that there are many times in this world where the tzaddikim want to engage in something positive. They want to engage in a mitzvah. They want to engage in a tikkun. They want to engage in something fundamentally necessary. But reality, time, space, experience prevents the desired spiritual thing from taking shape and manifesting in fruition. There's an oines rachmana patre. We live in a space of oines. We're a generation of oines. We want something good. We desire good things, but there's so many circumstances, internal and external, that are authentically real preventions that block me to the degree that oines rachmana patre, that the rachmanas that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is nikra av harachamim has, is that he gives me the ability to realize that I can have the desire for something in spite of the fact that I can't manifest it fully yet. And so in this world, there's an aspect of a ratzon, of a desire, of a deep tshuka, of a yearning connectivity to God, in spite of the fact that I don't have that being manifested in any real way. And a person might come to think that my machshavos tovos, my desires, my ratzon, the cultivation of yearning and wanting to be mekusher to Hashem, they're wasteful. They go to nowhere because they weren't manifest. They weren't consummated. They didn't become objectified in some action, in some actual deed. And a person walks around in this world with a certain burden of yeyush, with a certain burden of hopelessness. Zakta Ramami Panel, the suda of Leviathan is we're going to sit down, the tzaddikim are going to sit down, and they are going to be fed the maisim of those desires that they had that they could not accomplish as the result of circumstances beyond in their control. That a person is oines in this world because of the conditioning that we exist in. Our gans metzias is a metzias of oines, because we're revealing the nace of the aleph and the vav, which are osios ones, because the nace, the radical possibility of still being able to draw down the aleph, the alufo shel olam, through the vav, which is a hamshacha. We say oi, but in truth, the aleph and the vav being drawn down into the nace of the fact that we're still here, Ribbono Shel Olam, and that or of oines rachmana patre. So what the Ramami Pano says is that we didn't lose anything. We didn't miss out because we weren't able to manifest or bring to fruition our desires. The fact that my good desires don't become something real doesn't diminish one iota of the realness of those good desires. Action is not necessarily the fundamental expression of things in the world of spirituality or in the world of physicality. Desire, ratzon, Malchus baratzon kibla leim. I accept your kingship and will. Whether I can do it or not the rest of the year doesn't make a difference right now. Right now, I'm makabel you baratzon. And the suda of Leviathan is that we're going to be fed the maisa of the ratzon to show us that you didn't lose anything. Your desire was real. And here's the action. You can taste the action because it's ki'ilu you did the real thing. It's ki'ilu you did the real thing. And at that point, the choshech is nesapech to or. At that point, Gehenim is nesapech into geula. And that point, the Malchus, which is the Leviathan, which appears to be so concealed, is transformed into the makom of schok. Leviathan yatzarta l'sachik. It's the giloi of the playfulness of reality, of taking reality less seriously, of being like Yonah ben Amitai, who finds himself swallowed in the belly of the Leviathan, and all he can come to terms and recognize is that ultimately, I live in a sukkah in this world. The sukkah, it's temporary. The Leviathan teaches us that it's all temporary. It's a diras arai. It's the skin of the Leviathan. It's the skin of Malchus for us to realize that I need to slacken the grip on all of the groundedness that I so deeply, deeply feel that I need in order to function as a human being. And I need to open myself up to the ore of the water, because on landlessness alone resides the highest truth. In landlessness alone resides the highest truth. In the bilbil of the mind, where the ground is no longer there, it's specifically there that I can learn to find the light of the Leviathan. It's specifically there that I can hear the joke of Simcha Bunim, that daika al svas hamaves, drowning in the sea. It's specifically there that the drowning waters are mahapech into a Yam HaChachma, as Rabbi Nachman describes the Leviathan that's meshoitet in the Yam HaChachma, the tzadikim of the Yam HaChachma. That ore is niskal and it's nishapich misa tachayim, of sadness into schoik, of distance into closeness. And be'ezras Hashem, we could be zoiche through this process of the Yom Noraim to enter into the space of the Leviathan, to be swallowed by the Leviathan, to be spit out by the Leviathan, to learn how to transform the Leviathan from a place of Tumah into Tahara, and then to allow ourselves to rest at the suda of Leviathan, in the skin of the Leviathan, when we're surrounded by nothing other than connectivity. Connectivity when I'm connected and connectivity when I'm disconnected. Because even the deepest form of connectivity is disconnection in relation to the furthering of connectivity. So I'm always trying to connect and reconnecting and reconnecting and reconnecting and living with the secret of Levi, the secret of the nigunim that come from Levi, the secret of learning how to play the string chords of our hearts, which are based on the aliyah and the yerida, the up and the down, the sinking and the swimming, the climbing and the falling. The secret of the playfulness of existence, the fundamental reality of the up and down, because if it's up and down on ground, then it's falling. But if it's up and down in the sea, it's swimming. And we transition from the stability of the tzaddik yisod olam, the tzaddik yisod olam that supports the entire world in the Talmud Bavli, and we enter into the world of the Zohar HaKadosh, where the tzaddik is referred to as the Leviathan, and the world is now meshoiteit al sniff on the sanpir of the Leviathan, that we're floating in space, we're mamish delicately balanced on the water. We come face to face with this on Rosh Hashanah, with Tashlich, where we face the water unbearingly present in our lives, and we are forced to let go of it all. We throw all of our baggage away. And it's also the watery nature of Roika ha'aretz al hamayim, Roika ha'aretz al hamayim, of learning the secret of stability upon water, the Leviathan, floating in between the waves, allowing ourselves to be serious enough to not take ourselves so seriously, and to take ourselves not as seriously so that we can be able to take ourselves seriously. And Be'ezras Hashem, with these moichin of Leviathan, of this hamshacha of das, of connectivity from the highest part of ourselves to the lowest part of ourselves, we can begin to taste that secret of a tischak liyom acharun, but tischak liyom acharun, which we said is the aspect of Elul. The Gans Elul, the entire process is about connecting to the Leviathan. And with this, we can learn to live the joke of Rav Simcha Bunim, that specifically when we're drowning, we can learn to send regards to the Leviathan and uncover the secret that what is down is up, and that there's only up. And Be'ezras Hashem will be Zoicha to a Shana Toiva, to a Shana of Hiskashras, to a Shana of the preparation for the suda of Leviathan, Be'ezras Hashem, and all of the sudas of Mashiach Tzidkenu.